In the last couple weeks, we've had rainstorm after rainstorm after rainstorm. Each and every time I come out to this truck, the tarp's all destroyed. It's leaking all throughout the truck. Let me bring you in. I'll show you guys exactly what I mean. Our cover to our fuse box blew off, and this guy likes to rip into the tarp, so that's not good. That's starting to get filled up with water here and there. The tarp was completely blown off this guy a while back, and as you can see, corners starting to rust, here starting to surface rust. It's not good. We could buy more tarps, make it more watertight, basically make this guy a submarine, but why would we do that when we can simply just, get the wire and harness back in this and maybe drive it into the barn? So that's the goal for today. See if we can get this thing to move again. Welcome to High House Dale's Garage. This is kind of what we're dealing with. We got to get this into that. Again, I think we're going to go for temporarily right now because there's still some stuff that I would like to do in here that's going to be really easy without the harness inside. So we're not going to strip this harness just yet because there's a lot of things that we don't need, but there's a lot of things that we do. We need basically computers. We need the PAS system or the PAT system. We need basically all that in order to run our engine. So yeah, let's try to figure out a good way to plug this bad boy in. I know that we have to connect our steering wheel up no matter what. There's a whole bunch of connectors back here and stuff like that. And we're going to try it. I'm pretty sure that we had to have the gauge cluster on the harness in order for the whole thing to communicate. So we're basically going to use a lot of bungee cords, a lot of little jumpers like these, just to make grounds and stuff like that. But then we're going to try her out. So give me a moment and let's figure it out. When it comes to stuff like this, do what you know first, and then we'll kind of work our way around. So we know that we have to have our triple plug here. That's 3 plugs that we can get rid of. And then we also, on that harness, we have our computer plug, our stuff for our steering wheel, our gauge cluster, all that stuff. We're not worried at all about our HVAC, our radio, stuff like that. We don't have to worry about that right now. So let's plug in what we know and we'll work around that. All right, so first issue that we ran into. Steering wheel's the next guy up. We have our triple pack plugged in, but now we gotta plug in our steering wheel stuff. That's this guy right here. Well, if I take this, I can't even fudge it across. Normally there would be a junction right here. It used to be right here where this triple pack would plug into your firewall. We're gonna have to make something. We have no choice. So let me brainstorm a little bit on where exactly we're gonna plug those harnesses in, and I'll be right back. All right, so I didn't really know where I wanted to poke this in, not until we get the front clip and the main crossbar and stuff. I don't really want to cut into this any more than I already kind of did. Basically just so I can adapt a harness that I might move anyway. So what I did for now is I unplugged, basically as you can see the rad support's gone. Rad's just kind of sitting there, but it's been sitting there for a while now, so it's not a big deal. And so what I ended up doing is basically disconnecting my brakes, my ABS, air filter sensor, came along here, removed the entire wire and harness that went to the horns and the air conditioning section on this side. That basically frees up the entire harness to, as you can kind of see, loop all the way over here. So now, or even loop all the way on top, and then I can connect my interior harness maybe through this hole for right now. And then when we finish welding all this and everything and the front clips on, then we can decide where we're gonna put things exactly. So I think what I'm gonna do is drape this guy over this cowl piece, run it through that down section right now, and we can basically just kind of have a big bundle of wires off to the side and work around like that. That way we'll be able to get it started. So let's do that. All right, so we got the steering wheel all plumbed back in, minus horn of course. Plugs there, plugs there. Passive anti-theft, fellers. These 3 right here, very important. We have a couple plugs down there. I'm not sure what some of these boxes do. I know just about 90% of them, but 10% of them, not sure. So I'm going to leave them unplugged, but we still have basically the fuse box, a couple other things, and then we have to mate this side of the chassis right here, our computer and all that stuff, to that, and then make some grounds, you know, some small stuff, but big in the grand scheme. It looks like a cluttered mess now because it is. One thing to keep in mind, fellers, right now, this is all stock loomed, all wired up, all together, etc., etc. Some of these wires might be from me to that rear tire alone, you know? But the junction point where they actually branch off might be 10 feet away from where they actually join up. So right now it's a cluttered mess there, but I can unloom that and likely move some wires around without even having to splice in anything. Neat, eh? So let's work on basically mating that to this, and then we're gonna go through and just make some grounds and stuff, because there's gonna be quite a lot of grounds to make. So let's try doing that. All right, so we have all this extra wiring. Not sure if we're gonna need it. I'll show you where it plugs in. All plugs into this. It's a separate harness altogether. Again, we might not need it, so I'm gonna hold out on it for right now. There used to be a junction block right here. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go through, find all my grounds that I had, ground them to stuff, and then we're gonna add basically chassis grounds to body grounds, because right now this cab has nothing. So it's all gonna be temporary for now, but we just wanna see, will this guy fire up? All right, so this is what I got going on. Again, nothing's permanent, but we have basically grounds here, grounds to that, and these ground to the cab. That should be my two interior ones. Then we have, this would have been the rad support ground right here. He comes down, grounds to basically our battery ground right here. Then this one, I don't know what he is, but he's coming off the computer-ish, so we're grounding him for sure. Then what I have going on is I have frame ground to basically our AC pump, so that's gonna work as our engine ground. And then I have my cab ground. I'm gonna hook that one up to our negative post on our battery, and then we just gotta go from basically our chassis to our battery negative. Even though these are red cables, fellas, I'm using them as ground cables just for right now. But yeah, let's go stab a battery in this, put our OBD2 scanner on it, and see just kind of how angry this thing is at me. So give me a second. We got clickage. Hook that up. All right, so all that should be hooked. That's my ECM. ECM has power. I think the door buzzer is going off. I think that's exactly what that is, but let's bring you inside. So this is kind of what we got going on right now. Keys off. We got this little aggressive guy just going ham. I think he's the door buzzer. He's freaking out. But what do we got going on here? So here's our gauge cluster. All right, gauge cluster's live. Looks like the brake and the ABS light are on. You know, that makes sense. I don't see the check. Oh, there's the service engine soon. That's the check engine light. Okay, we don't seem to have a lot going on the rest of it. So just hold on. I'm gonna hook on my OBD2 scanner and let's see just kind of what's going on. All right, so this is where some ingenuity kind of had to come to play. I put this harness back onto this kind of troubleshooting. I did like 4 or 5 different things. But what we're gonna try now is I have my grounds hooked up right here. This is for this cluster, all that's still hooked up, all that. But I re-added a few things. I forgot this is the passive anti-theft system right there. And then, not sure what we're gonna have to do with this, but what it's doing right now, here I'll show you. It's all hooked up. Let's look at our cluster. Roll my key forward. Everything's all good, right? Pretty straightforward, but if you can hear that, we got nothing, right? So I thought to myself, well, what can I do about that? And, well, one thing that you can do is you can come down on this starter here, and I'll show you the difference. We have our main power port. Right now I have this hooked up to live. Oh, one sec. Make sure the key's rolled forward there. And she's in park, you know, make sure of that. But you want to touch your hot power. Let me turn the light on here. But you want to touch your hot power to this right here. This is your main starter piece. So I got hot power off this guy. Kind of cycle him in. Oops. See, you can hear that. But now we got the problem, the Bendix isn't sliding out, right? There's a little tiny wire in here. This is the problem. My little tiny activator wire way down in there isn't doing the thing. But what I can do is I can take this exact same piece right here and simply activate my activator wire, because we should have good power going down to my starter. So with the key rolled forward and the activator wire on, I'm gonna prop you guys up. We're gonna try to start it up. All right, that took a way longer than it should have, but without a test light, without my multimeter, all that stuff, you know, takes a little bit of figuring out and cobbling things and trying different things. And this is basically what we came up with, and it was a real simple one. I'm going to show you guys exactly what was going on. So in here, in this jumbled, wiry mess, first I tried this. I was wondering if maybe the PAT system, the passive anti-theft system, this is part of its module, if this right here needed to be grounded. So I tried that, didn't do anything. I tried grounding my main fuse block in here, didn't do anything. I tried grounding, where is it? I missed a ground here. There was a secondary ground right there. Added him, did all that, didn't do anything. So then I came in here and I went over to this little guy and he was blown. See how he pushes in? This is your basically, if you flip your car, this little guy triggers and you have to push him back down, you see? Every time. But what was going on, even though he was pushed in, he was sideways. And I think the little ball and plunger inside was rolling. You know what I mean? Because it's just a little ball in there. So I put him upright, pushed him down, and check this out. There you go. There you go. It's as simple as that, really. It's always usually one thing. It's usually not the entire thing. Usually just the one. But let's go inside and I'll show you what's going on. Well, a couple of things I thought was interesting. Obviously, the engine light's on because there's a lot of things, you know, disconnected. ABS is on right now. That's completely disconnected. Emergency brake is on. That's completely gone. The only gauges that should be working is fuel, oil. That's your charge. There's something going on with my cold, if you guys saw that there in the corner, with my engine temperature, but that's okay. RPM seems to be holding okay. We don't know if that's working, but one thing I thought was interesting, we have absolutely, I don't know if you can see that, it's quite dusty. There should be numbers here for our mileage. Nothing, not a thing. So I don't know what's going on with that, but I think what we're gonna do, we're gonna clean all this up, secure some stuff down, put the seat in, and see if we can get this guy moving. Now that the engine's running, I'm curious to know what we can actually disconnect and what it doesn't need. So this right here is all extra harness, and it's only 3 loops. So I'm gonna see if I can actually disconnect that portion of the harness completely. So we're gonna leave it running. I'm gonna take it, shut it off, or I'm gonna unplug it while it's running. If it dies, then we know we gotta keep that. If it doesn't die, then what we're gonna do is basically delete on that. So let's watch and see. So that's the complete harness unplugged. I'm gonna go see if I can shut it off and it will start right back up. All right, moment of truth. Okay, so it starts right back up on that. There's a few other things I want to see if we can disconnect. We have a few modules in here, like that nice piece of unit right there, and this guy, and a couple other little things. If I can disconnect those, then I can just delete them off the wiring harness altogether. So, let's see what we can do. Remote keyless anti-theft. Let's see what happens if I disconnect him. Nothing. Let's go see if it will turn off and turn back on. So that's fine without that. Let's try another one. Here's another one I wanted to try. It's just back here. It's a big one. If I can take that whole module out, I would be happy. So, let's see what happens. Okay, so it's completely disconnected now. Let's turn her off. Okay, let's turn it back on. Fire's right back up. Ignore the exhaust leak, obviously. So, we now don't need that. We now don't need that. What else can we delete in here? One I was actually quite interested on is if we can delete the cluster completely. So, let's see here. Cluster's on, as you can see. Truck's running. Sorry for the shake. Cluster's off. Cluster's off completely. So, again, let's turn it off. Let's turn it back on. Oh. It might have been the, yeah, see, he fell. Let's give him a shake, put him back, kind of upright. That's what got me the first time. Let's try that again. So it wants to start, but it's not. Let's try it again. Yeah, see, it's dying over and over again. It might just be a fuel pressure issue. Might just have to build it up. No, it keeps dying. Let's plug this guy back in. Okay, just to show you, it's all plugged back in. As you can see, all the gauges are moving. That guy's plugged back in. Let's see if it starts up. And it goes to idle. So, we're gonna have to do something about the cluster, or we're gonna have to use the cluster. Basically, we need a way to override whatever's causing the truck to completely shut off. Interesting. We got everything rudimentally secured. Let's go see if it can move around just a little bit. Seems to be able to move okay. Let's go see if it can do, you know, if it can drive around a little bit more. It's a little smoky in here, but it had way more in it. Just, you know, keep her down just a little bit to save on her. Because when this is all done, I plan on absolutely demolishing these poor little suckers. They're basically gone already. But if you notice, the first burnout was a one-wheel peeler. Now we got a two-wheel peeler. So there's something going on in the diff. The diff's not happy about something. It's likely just an old LSD Warren clutches. We'll do a rebuild on that some other time. But yeah, she's in the barn now. So the next part that we'll be doing on this truck is basically draining the coolant, taking the rad support off, all that stuff, whatever's left of it, taking the entire harness out. I know we just put it back in, but you got to do what you got to do. Take the entire wire and harness out completely, because now we know what we can take away and what we got to keep. And then we're going to be making bars that basically will go down to our rad support mounts, and that's kind of what everything will attach to. It's going to be really cool, but we have to make sure that the front end goes on this, so it'll likely be, tell you honest truth, the front end grafting it onto the pickup body first. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's been a long time coming, but I'm happy that it actually moves. At least, you know, right now. It won't move in a couple hours, but it moves right now. We'll see you in the next video really, really soon. All right, see ya.